It's the third summer special of Whole Lotta Wolves, sponsored by Esfuerzo Wines. I'm Joshua Buckley with co-host Paul LePage.
Hello.
On the socials, we have Danny Paletti.
Good evening and afternoon.
And our fantastic producer in New York City, Alex Patakis.
Hello, hello.
And guys, we have a very special guest. We've been super excited about this. Sure, almost all of our listeners should know who this is from Talking Wolves. It's Dave Azzopardi. How's it going, Dave?
I'm all good, thank you, guys. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we always ask a series of questions for our first guests. So this may be silly to you, but how did you become a Wolves fan?
It was through family, really. My mom's side, really, they were all season ticket holders. So a lot of my earliest memories of going to Molineux was with my granddad. There were quite a few interesting matches. That was like the years where Wolves were really sort of stuck in the championship of the second division. Because a lot of my dad's side, they're all obviously based in Malta. They all support all sorts of teams, but a lot of them are Manchester United fans. So obviously when you're younger as well, you sort of have a soft spot for like a top team as well. So Manchester United was my soft spot team, but yeah, pretty much followed Wolves with it. I'm only sort of 10 minutes away from the stadium. So be very lucky with that. And yeah, I've always been into football, but it probably took until my sort of teenage years where I really, really got into it. And yeah, got a season ticket at Wolves and haven't looked back really.
Now, I will say, other than the official Wolves Twitter account, the first follow that I gave on Twitter was Talking Wolves, because that is the premier source, especially during silly season. I'm sure it's a lot of the American fans feel the same way. So how did you decide to start Talking Wolves?
That's a good question. I don't even know what made me start it, but I've always sort of been interested in creating content and things, and probably again around my sort of teenage years or a number of things. So like Football Manager, I played that a lot, and I thought I may as well start recording it. And I did little voiceovers playing the game. And then I started going to a few away games, and I thought, oh, this would be quite cool to capture this. And it was obviously vlogging was a thing, but it wasn't massive in the football world. So I started doing little vlogging things. And if I watched them back now, I would be embarrassed by the quality of them. They would be awful. But I did little vlogging experiences. And then started pretty much on my own personal channel doing what I do now and just talking about transfers and talking about news and giving my opinion of it. And I had a message of someone that I speak to still regularly now. And he said, like, have you ever thought about just doing a dedicated Wolves channel? Because with all the Wolves stuff, I was doing Football Manager stuff in between, and your subscriber base and your follower base would just come a little bit diluted then. And I thought, okay, not a bad idea. Asked a few people that was doing Wolves content as well at the time. Few people said no, which was fair enough. Few people were interested. And then it was just coming up with a name. So I don't know if I had any other names in mind, but Talking Wolves was one. And I used a website to see if it was free as a handle on all these social medias, because I wanted it to like be the same on everything. And the only thing I couldn't get Talking Wolves on was Instagram. So I think I was Talking Wolves official for a little while. But I am Talking Wolves now. But yeah, just went from there and gone from strength to strength. The type of content and quality of content has changed massively. But I'm just really, really glad I started it now. There's been people, some of the people that I speak to every day and some of my closest friends I've met through Talking Wolves. So yeah, it went from there. And again, like I said, I haven't looked back really.
And you guys do God's work by translating all these Portuguese and Spanish and Greek reports. Yeah. Like
it's weird because the whole, it was just going to be a YouTube channel. That was it. It was just going to be a YouTube channel and me doing a match preview, doing a match review, and probably talking about transfers every now and then. And I can't even remember what triggered me just like looking into news and then posting news. But now it's pretty much, a lot of people think it's my full-time job. It's not. Like, I do have an actual job and I do this on the side, but it could easily be a full-time job. Like, I'm, especially around now, I don't think my family or girlfriend would forgive me because I'm glued to my phone, because I'm just worried that I'll miss something basically. So, but yeah, a lot of it is like at the moment, obviously all the Brazilian press are like translating Portuguese and Spanish, and thank God that Apple has like a translate feature on Safari now. Otherwise, it'd be a bigger job for me. But no, it's all good fun, and I think with that you get experience of who to trust, who's right. Like I've just had someone message me with an article and you read it and it's just like it goes back to the original source, which is just a load of rubbish. So we're just trying to find out. And I've been quite conscious of that, making sure Wolves fans are actually looking at relevant and probably fairly reliable news rather than me just churning out anything that I see on the internet, basically.
Dave,
I also like how
if
you
you
guys
were,
kind of. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Dave, if you were to get a penny for every time you've replied to a tweet that says talking shite about a transfer rumor, how rich would you be?
It's weird because thankfully it's calmed down a lot now, and it's weird because I've very rarely replied to people anyway on Twitter. If I do, it's normally people I've seen reply to tweets loads, and I try and bite my tongue, and then one day they just catch me on not a brilliant day, and I'll reply to them. And again, it's not often I block people. There's a few on the block list just because they used to post the same stuff. But it's all right now because if someone does post that, I think everyone, probably a good 95% of the followers now understand how Talking Wolves works and what it is. Probably this time 3 or 4 years ago, it was still a fairly new thing, like a news aggregator on Twitter. So a lot of people used to bite at it, but now I've almost got like a little portion of the Talking Wolves followers that'll just jump on these people before I even have to say anything. So I am quite grateful for that. But no, I think to be fair, there will be a portion of Wolves fans that don't get what Talking Wolves is or don't like it, but there's a lot of people that support what we do, which is obviously really good. Makes my life easier as well.
It's been fun to see all the different synonyms as well that we've been using for interested in, is keen to, has a liking.
Yeah, I tried to find something. There was one the other day. I can't remember which tweet I put it on, but I worded it completely differently, just so people couldn't reply. Reportedly interested FC or something like that. But yeah, again, I've always done that. I've always used the word reportedly as well, just because it is in a report. It's not what I'm saying. It's, and some people say, why do you always put that? And I thought it's just to cover my own back really as well. But yeah, no, I do find those sort of things funny, to be fair.
So what's your favorite match all time for Wolves?
Ooh, well, this is a good question. There's always two that I go to, and obviously one I had to revisit fairly recently was when we beat Manchester United in the FA Cup. Obviously Jota scored the second goal, but that was just an unbelievable game of football. That was like prime Molineux atmosphere as well. And I remember when Jota scored, I sort of had the realization that Wolves were going to be an FA Cup semi-final, and like sort of in my lifetime of following Wolves, that hadn't happened. So yeah, I almost got quite tearful of that. So I always remember that match. And the second match may have been the same season or maybe the year after. No, it was the same season, I think, when we beat Manchester City 3-2. Again, just because the atmosphere was amazing. I remember that was around just after Christmas, I think, and I was meant to be going on holiday. Well, I did go on holiday the next day, but originally we were going to travel that day. And I don't know why I thought, I just really want to watch this match. And I'm so glad I did, because, again, the atmosphere and, coming from 2 goals down to beat City 3-2 was amazing. But I've been really lucky to be at some great matches. When we beat Cardiff in the Championship, John Ruddy, Cardiff missed the 2 penalties. John Ruddy had saved one of them right at the end. I was there. But I think in terms of atmosphere and in terms of, like, the feeling I got, it was probably those 2 matches, the Man U game and the Man City game, I would say.
That Cardiff game with Mike Dean, just
I know. So dramatic, yeah. I know. But again, that was like really early days of Talking Wolves as well. Like then I hadn't really sussed out like content and stuff, and I remember I haven't watched it back. I might watch it back later. I remember I did like a video in the ground, like whilst it was on. I think I did a vlog of that match as well. But every now and then I have like an hour or so when I'll just scroll through really old videos and see how I did content, what I did. And some of it I was like, oh, wow, it's interesting that I was doing that back in like 2017, 2018. And then other bits are like cringing, like, oh my God, that is so bad. But it's weird because I haven't got the confidence to do it anymore. But I wish at the end of a game I could just get my camera in the South Bank and start recording myself, giving my thoughts. But I don't know, I've just never had the confidence to do that with so many people. But for some reason during that Cardiff game I did. Again, I don't know what it sounds like. I don't know how many views it's got, but I might give it a watch later to see.
And who is your favorite player past and on the current squad?
Ooh. So I've never really had like favorites as such. I think Neves is an obvious one, just because again I think he stayed at the club a lot longer than he needed to. Sylvan Ebanks-Blake back in the day when I was at school was somebody that was a player that everybody used to mention. So I liked Ebanks-Blake a lot. again, I know it's easy for me to say now, but genuinely Jota was one of my favourites. I used to love watching him play. I think when Jota was at his best, Wolves were just so good, obviously alongside Jimenez as well. In the current team, I think João Gomez possibly. Again, just because he's been Andre or Jorgen Strand Larsen could probably quickly catch him up. But I think just because he's been here slightly longer than those two, I think João Gomez is probably one of my favourites at the moment. So go with those. But again, I've never really held things or had vendettas or really disliked current players or anything like that. So it's very hard for me to pick one favourite. But yeah, if I had to pick one that I sort of favour a little bit more, I'd probably say João.
That's a good one. Well, you mentioned Diogo Jota, and this is our first time having a recording since that tragic and untimely passing of him and his brother, Andre Silva. Really shook our fan base and really all of the world of football to the core. You saw a lot of tributes, even out here with the U.S.-Mexico Gold Cup final. They had a moment of silence for it. So it was a real outpouring of love back there in Wolverhampton, wasn't it, Dave?
Yeah, massive, and it shook me about a lot. Diogo was he's only a couple of months older than me as well, and you look at the circumstances. I think before what had happened, he probably had one of the best summers of his life. He'd won the Premier League with Liverpool, he'd won the Nations League with Portugal, he got married to his wife Ruth, who he'd been with for years. Got 3 beautiful children. It's really sad, and yeah, I got really upset. It shook me about a lot, and the memorial at Molineux as well was really touching and really emotional to be there as well. But him and Andre, I think the world have lost 2 very good people, 2 very talented people, and talented footballers as well. So I'm just glad that so far we've given him the recognition he deserves, and fingers crossed, however they honour him in the future, and in the games at Molineux and Manchester City game on the opening day, hopefully we do him justice as well.
Yeah, here's a question for the rest of the guys too. Paul, should his number be retired? What are your thoughts?
I think they've done everything fantastically up to this point, and at this stage, it's not for us to do the retirement. He was a Liverpool player wearing that shirt, them retiring the shirt, I think is perfectly fitting. But for us, I think we've done everything by the book. I think the Hall of Fame induction and everything that they will do around that and the tributes are spot on.
You feel the same way, Danny?
Yeah, it's. I guess I feel kind of like Paul. It doesn't feel like for me to decide. I've been perfectly satisfied with the tributes that have happened so far and the tributes that are coming. And I guess I should just also mention that Old Gold Pack on Twitter, obviously doing a fundraiser for the sort of displays around that Man City game. I'm sure you'll see those links being retweeted by us and Talking Wolves. I know we have in the past. And I'll put that up, after this episode airs, if anybody wants to contribute to that. They're already over, I think, £6,000. So I'm looking forward to that.
I think what's really interesting is because he's a newer player, that a lot of us younger U.S. Wolves fans, this is somebody we're going to remember as well, for the fact that, when we started following the club and he got us up to the Premier League and got in Europa. Alex, I mean, that makes it hit hard for the whole fan base, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those fans that probably came along and fell in love with the club, and he was a huge reason why. Like, I always think he battled so hard, and that was like part of what made Wolves so appealing as an American sports fan who, like, quite frankly, grew up thinking like this sport could sometimes be tedious with everybody diving. Like, he would play through challenges. He scored huge goals. He was just a badass. And I think he embodied like the spirit that I knew of, like the only thing I knew about Wolves at the time, which is what drew me to them. Right. Maybe arguably better than anybody. So yeah, it was insane. Like, I mean, there's these things happen, and sometimes you just are like overwhelmed with like how much it actually impacts you. And this is definitely one of those instances, I'm sure, for anyone that supports this club. or Liverpool.
Alex, do you remember it took them a whole year for Wolves being in the Premier League for FIFA to put his actual face on there?
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I know. That's wild. They're always slow to the punch with Wolves. That's just is what it is. But
well, let's get into the real talking points now. Lot of outgoings, not as many incomings. So real quick, and sorry, Dave, we're gonna put this in US dollars because
It's fine,
that's
don't worry.
most of our. So Matheus Cunha off to Manchester United for $78 million. Rayan Ait-Nouri went to Man City for $39 million, but we didn't get all of that $39 million. Nelson Semedo, we'll get more on him later. Who knows? Craig Dawson left. Did he end up going to where'd he go to?
I think he's still a free agent at the moment, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Pablo Sarabia, he went to Saudi to get that bag. Good for him. Chiquinho left to Portugal on a free as well, although we got a huge sign-on bonus. Joe Hodge left, and then Kem Campbell as well. Any of those, Dave, surprise you?
Probably not, to be fair. Obviously, Ryan at the time was probably one that Wolves probably wanted to keep, but knew other than Matheus Cunha, he was probably the going to be the other main asset that probably will move on. So I think it's pretty fair to say I wouldn't expect Wolves to make any other major outgoings now. And it's probably just a case of moving on more deadwood. It's an interesting tactic what they're doing in regards to the transfers and moving players on. I think Chem Campbell, Joe Hodge, Chiquinho, all the same in regards to letting them go for nothing with a big sell-on fee. I've seen some clubs do it before, but it's quite rare. I think with Chiquinho, there's a buyback clause as well. So it'll be interesting to see if it pays off. But out of those, there's no real major surprises as of yet, to be honest.
It's bizarro world that Man City's two wingbacks are former Wolves guys. Just because Matheus Nunes was too dumb to play midfield. Paul, I know you were very disappointed at this. Loaned out your boy, Tommy Doyle. I'm starting to think that bromance with an option to buy may be a bigger curse than what Danny tried to say the cowboy hat was.
Yeah, it could be. I'm going to keep my cards close to my chest as far as any future incomings and taking an active interest in their career progression. That's for sure.
Dave, I think it was important that he was just loaned out, though, because we don't know if Vitor's here for the long term. Very clear he doesn't fit into a system, but that doesn't mean another manager he wouldn't fit in.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think we all know here that Tommy is a good player. I think that he's just unfortunate that at the moment, João Gomez and Andre are at the club, and obviously at the moment, quality-wise, better than him, fit into Vitor's system better. But yeah, like you've just said, there's nothing to say that Tommy Doyle couldn't fit into somebody else's system. And I think a year in the Championship with Birmingham, who at the moment look like a real team that are on the up, got a lot of momentum. We're going to add some big players, I think, to their team between now and the start of the season, and probably in January as well. So probably a good place to be. His partner's only just had a baby, so he won't really have to move very far. So yeah, I think it's a good move for Tommy Doyle. I think the Wolves have probably looked after themselves. If there is an option to buy, I think it'll get triggered if Birmingham and get promoted. But yeah, like you said, if Vitor, for whatever reason, moves on in 6 months, 12 months, what's not to say another manager prefers Tommy Doyle and wants him at the club?
What do you think happens first, Danny? That Tommy Doyle gets Tom Brady's signature, or Tom Brady gets Tommy Doyle's signature?
Do we have confirmation that Tommy Doyle watches American football? I feel like that one's far more likely, because I'm telling you, the chances that Tom Brady even knows who Tommy Doyle is, even now, I feel like are very, very low. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That first big win, Tom Brady out with the supporters on the pitch, wild celebrations, and Tommy Doyle right there with him. I have nothing good to say about Tom Brady, so I'll end my predictions there.
Dave, Danny's a Baltimore Ravens fan. I don't know how much you follow
I follow a little bit. I don't know any teams or rivalries though, to be fair. So I'm one of those that normally like watches the first part of the Super Bowl and falls asleep before the halftime show even starts. So I did. It's one of those things that I understand the rules of American football and stuff, or football as you guys call it. But it's one of those. It's one of those things that I just haven't got really had the time or put time aside to get into, to be fair. I know a lot of it's getting a lot bigger in Britain though now. I know a lot of people close to me following it. So
people like to give us kudos for waking up early, but I can't imagine. I mean, especially like Stu from the Fancast, staying up until all hours of the night to watch the Jets of all teams. I mean, it's just like
that was the biggest thing when I went out to England, was seeing how difficult it was to watch any night sporting events in America. Like, I love the NFL draft. You think I stayed up for that? Hell no.
There was something they used to do. Is it the red zone? Is that what it's called? Oh, yeah. So that if that's on normally an okay time, so in England I think it's like 8-9 p.m. So it's pretty easy to watch sometimes. But even the other day when I wanted to watch John Arias's last game, I somehow found a stream of the Brazilian match, and again that was like nearly midnight here in the UK by the time it like really kicked off. So after about 20 minutes, I fell asleep and then woke up and it was half time and they were 2-0 down. I thought I'll just turn off. I had a few tweets like, how did Arias play? I said, I don't have a clue. I was asleep. So, yeah, I don't know how you guys. I assume some kickoff times fit into your schedule, but I assume there's other matches. Like I think the lunchtime kickoffs probably catch you guys out sometimes. So,
yeah, out here on the East Coast, 7:30 is the early kickoff. But I mean, a highlight, obviously, of recent years is the Black Country Derby starting at, what was it, 5:45 in the morning or something?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Trying to get
Danny
properly
shotgunning beers with
trying to get properly liquored up for a game that kicks off at 5:45 in the morning was a challenge.
That's pretty good. It's cool in a way that I remember the last time, the time before I went to America, and I was like waking up in the morning like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and there were Premier League games on. I was like, this is actually pretty cool, to be fair. But because then you got the rest of your day to either be really depressed at Wolves have lost or like enjoy the rest of the weekend. That's okay.
Yeah. It sucks when they lose at 6:30 on a Saturday. It makes for a very difficult weekend.
Yeah.
Another outgoing was Nasir Jiga, who I pissed off a lot of people because I said, good, that was the worst performance, one of the worst performances I'd ever seen in a Wolves kit. I stand by that. Screw you guys that say otherwise. Now the incomings. Boy, we got a list of 2 people. Okay. John Arias, who you mentioned. Fluminense has already announced it. Hey, he's going. I'm still not going to believe it until he's holding up the kit. And even then I could see, Jeff Shee screwing it up. But $18 million. What do you think, Dave? You've been doing some research on him.
Yeah. He looks pretty good. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are sort of close in Brazilian football and watch a lot of Brazilian football seem to think that he has been one of the best players and most consistent players in Brazil for the last couple of years. I think obviously everybody was concerned when he was named in their starting lineup on Thursday night, was it? But he played 90 minutes, which surprised me. I thought he would either come off the bench and have a short period of time or get subbed off around 60, 70 minutes and have like a lap of honor or applause. But he played the full 90, to be fair. But I think he will go towards being a Cunha replacement. I don't think it's a like-for-like replacement as such. I think Vitor will probably still want somebody else to help fill that hole a little bit. But looks a really good player, to be honest. And I'm excited to see how he gets on. I'm hoping that he's here in time that maybe he can play some part next week in our friendly against Stoke. But yeah, I like the look of him. I think the interesting thing, I don't know if it's probably pros and cons to this, that in terms of availability, he's pretty much ever present. Touch wood, doesn't really have many injuries. I think last year, throughout the sort of 24-25 season, obviously in Brazil it runs a little bit different, but he played the second most minutes of anybody in professional football. So he played a lot of football. And I'm just hoping that he can continue, and he's got momentum in his legs and he plays well. But there's part of me, the pessimist in me, thinks maybe it'll catch up on him because he's literally had no break whatsoever. He's started the Brazilian season at the start of the year. He had the Club World Cup. and now he's going straight into pretty much a Premier League season. So let's wait and see. But in terms of quality of a footballer, I think this is a really good player that, you know, for Wolves to sign, especially with, you know, with how well he played in the Club World Cup recently.
Yeah, I was a little worried when he was in the starting 11. Like yesterday, I made a trade in my fantasy baseball league, and then the guy got hurt last night. He's not even on my roster, so that's a little scary there. The other player that's joined was another wonder kid, quote unquote, Fur Lopez. Please stop with the fur puns, Chris Fisher. I want to murder you. So what do you think about him? He went for more than Arias, $24 million, but is he going to make it into the starting 11? I kind of feel like he's more of a depth develop guy.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is long term. I think Vitor made comments today in the press saying that he's still got quality. I think he's shown that the fact that he started the last two friendly matches, and I think he played a little part in the Jorgen Strand Larsen's goal yesterday, playing a nice little ball for Keanu Hoover down the right-hand side. So, I mean, this is his chance. You know, he's got an opportunity. He's been there since day one, so he's got an opportunity to continue impressing Vitor. But I think that's probably what it is, a long-term option, depth option, give him minutes as and when. But it'll be interesting. I think fans have just got to be patient with him, really, and not jump on his back too much. But I think he'll be in and out of the team, and that's probably good for him. And I think as a player, he appreciates that as well, rather than him coming in thinking he's going to be the first name on the team sheet. By some of the comments Fair's made, I think he understands that he's going to be a player that Wolves want to develop. But again, I'm not against the signing, but I think when he's your first signing and you spent so much money on him and you're struggling to bring anyone else in, I think, unfortunately, for Fair Lopez, a lot of people are almost going to put their attention to him and say, well, why are you the only player, or why are you the first player Wolves have signed? And if it doesn't go well early on, then fans can get a little bit frustrated. But I just think it's important with players like this that we give them a little bit of time, basically.
Now, were you pro George Mendes coming back into the picture in such a prominent role?
I don't really mind. I wasn't against it, but I'm not like 100% for it. I think when you look at our best years, it was because of what George Mendes has helped and done in terms of recruitment, but also some of our biggest errors in the transfer market have also been because of him. And part of me thinks that's what stung Fosun and sort of, you know, with Guedes and obviously Fabio Silva, probably the main two. We spent a lot of money on them, and Fosun are almost scared to put their hand in their pocket now. Whereas I think if you actually you sign the likes of Jota, Jimenez, Johnny, they were all big fees and ultimately did their job, and we got our money's worth for those. So I think I was in favour of him coming back into the fold somewhat, because it had gone a little bit stale for Wolves. I don't think Matt Hobbs did a particularly bad job at Wolves, but obviously they trust Vitor more and they want to succeed more with Vitor, and you know that's the way that he ultimately has gone. So Matt Hobbs in terms of recruitment was okay, but obviously with the manager, he picked Gary O'Neill, he backed Gary O'Neill, and that backfired. And I think ultimately that's what cost him his job long term.
I will say, Matt Hobbs got us that pipeline into South America.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned fans a little worried about the lack of incomings. We're not the only ones. Vitor Pereira also worried. Had a couple real poignant comments, although this was my favorite. But about business, I don't know anything, which was definitely Jeff Shee telling him, well, you don't understand this, blah, blah, blah. And so Vitor, a nice little passive-aggressive jab there. He wants a lot. We need another winger. He needs another midfielder. He wants some wingbacks. What do you think is feasible for incomings, and are they going to be here in time for the season?
I think the players that he's mentioned, I think are feasible, but I think that it may not all come before the start of the season. I think if you averaged it out, you'd probably be signing a player like every 3 or 4 days before the season, which obviously would be great. And I think our socials would be on overdrive. But this sort of, I think if you're realistic, Wolves always tend to, when the transfer window is okay. And I know it's not ideal, and a lot of football fans, a lot of Wolves fans will want the deals to be in as early as possible. And Vitor had said that as well. I think if you look at his recent articles, like in the last day or so, with the Express and Star and with Ojogo in Portugal today, I think he sort of stepped back a little bit on the pressure that he was putting on the club. I think the article that was out sort of 3 or 4 days ago, he really started putting pressure on in terms of like, where are my signings? I wanted them here at the start of July. And now over the last day or so, I think he sort of appreciated it's kind of not as easy as that. And that's me saying that to somebody who's got however many years of experience in football. You know, I think he would know that anyway. So I think he would have put his targets forward to the board, and I have no doubt that they're working on them, especially as he's brought in his own guy to be sort of the technical director who's going to, you know, bring all these departments together. So I think we'll be okay. But the two things are, one, we have to be patient, but two, also, he's still got a lot of deadwood out there. I think whilst you've got Fabio, Gej and or Huang still at the club, because I think one, if not both of them, will probably have to move on. You've still got Sasha Kalajdzic. You've still got sort of probably one of the wing backs will still have to move on, either Keanu Hoover, Lima out on loan for argument's sake. So I think there's still like a lot of wages and probably 30 to 40 million pounds worth of talent there that needs to move on to help Wolves. What you don't want to happen is that Wolves are real proactive and bring all these players in. You can't sell the other guys off. And then all of a sudden you've got players like 200 grand worth of wage still at your club. So it's just trying to find the balance, really. And it's frustrating for fans because you want all the players in now, but as a club, they have to think sensibly as well, especially as Vitor sort of alluded to wanting a slightly smaller squad. You don't want players like Sasha or probably more than likely Fabio and players outside of the registered squad still at the club. You want to try and move people on as quick as you can.
I think I'm with Dave on that this could be, often we hear it that, it's going to be a later transfer window this season, and that's used to try out as an excuse. But I think there's some benefit of it this year that it's going to apply, like we've seen with Arias in terms of not only the Club World Cup, but he was playing games in Brazil. And if we are actively looking in that market, then we're talking to players who are in their season, and the clubs are going to be hesitant to move them sooner than when those games going on. I think I'll get a little twitchy, a little nervy when it's our collection, that group of clubs that we're clustered in. If moves are started to make for the likes of James McAtee or Harvey Elliott, and we're not in that conversation, then I might start to get some worry. But even to that extent, I think there'll be value, because it's like that knock-on effect that if Liverpool are signing these players, it comes on down. So I think they could well crop up that you get a player of the caliber of Harvey Elliott that doesn't move on a permanent, but all of a sudden he comes available on a loan with an obligation. I think that'd be right up our street. So if that starts to happen, I'll get some positive vibes from it.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head with stuff like that, because a lot of the time you have to wait for. It's annoying, but there's a chain or there's a domino effect with these transfers. And you have to wait for another club to either sell or sign a player, and then it opens the market for your club or another club to come in for one of your players. I think Harvey Elliott's a good example. I think at the moment there's probably a lot of clubs that appreciate him, but probably don't appreciate him enough to be spending probably 40 to 50 million what they want right now. The closer it gets to the end of the window, and we're sort of 2 or 3 games into the season and he's not even had many minutes, that's when he'll start to put a bit more pressure on Liverpool to move him on. And like you said, Paul, it probably be a loan with an obligation or an option to buy, or you get him for a significantly lower transfer fee as well. And I think even like Carl mentioned there, I think he's talking about in the chat, about Kyle Walker-Peters. I don't think he would have been a bad signing for Wolves. But the issue is when you're mentioned in that conversation and he goes somewhere else, that's when everyone starts to go crazy and kicks off. Where in reality, if we sort of take a sit back, I don't think Kyle Walker-Peters is that great a player anyway, if I'm completely honest. And I think with players like Keanu Hoover, I don't think he's getting. There's been conversations about him, obviously, over the last 24 hours, but I don't think he's getting that much respect because we sort of have known what he was like 3 or 4 years ago. Whereas if we were linked with a 23-year-old right back that had played a full season in France now, I think everyone would be really excited. So it's just trying to find the balance of everything, really. And I think, just try not to get het up with too much. I think people just take the transfer window a little bit too seriously. And like that's coming off someone that literally looks at it religiously anyway.
I take it a little too seriously.
But I don't see you, Josh. Like, there's people that are genuinely every like 10 minutes they go on Twitter and they're moaning about something else. I was like, man, what are you doing? Like, chill. So yeah.
Now you've gotten a good night's sleep. Have you rethought your Fabio stance that you had yesterday?
I don't know what that was. I was at work yesterday. I was just thinking, you know what? I really like him to do well again. I don't know. I've always had this weird thing with Fabio Silva. Again, going back to what I said at the start of the show, like I was a massive Football Manager fan, and he used to be the go-to wonder kid on Football Manager. And I remember when we signed him, like I really wasn't bothered about the transfer fee or anything. But I mean, realistically, I know, and I've mentioned it on videos, he probably has to go this summer. I would be, if Vitor came out and said, look, I want him to stay, I would be all for that and I would back that. He would have to sign a new contract for me to even like be satisfied with it, because obviously he's going into his last year. You can't risk going into January with him on less than 1 year left on his deal. I think he had a great year at Las Palmas, and I think if he's happy to be a rotation option or one of those number 10s, then I'd be all for it. But I think realistically, he probably does have to move on. But again, you look at I know he's played, I think 70 some plus games for Wolves, which sounds absolutely crazy when you think about it. But if you look at the minutes played and the goal contributions that he's had, I know he hasn't scored or got many assists. But if you go by his minutes played, he's getting a goal contribution like every 3 matches. You know, if you had a striker getting you like 10 plus goal contributions in the Premier League on average, that's not a bad return, to be fair. So I'm not fully against Fabio staying, but I think if I'm honest, it's more than likely he moves on. And again, it's just one of those players. I think he's probably the domino that needs to fall for Wolves to start making more moves, because he's on probably half decent wage. And obviously Wolves are probably hoping top end about 20 million, but I think realistically looking more, closely to 15 million pounds. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Fabio Silva
scored. We need the meme from Predator of Dave and Todd DeWitt with Fabio Silva in the middle.
Yeah. Fabio Silva scored 100% of the games that he's played against West Brom. So
yeah, exactly.
Counts for something.
It's a shame for those results, because if we won both or either of those games, there would be a lot of Wolves players that, would be like legendary status. And it's just a shame for him that it was in COVID season. And I think that was probably biggest part of Fabio's downfall. I think if he joined with a full packed Molineux, bearing in mind the year before, like the atmosphere was unbelievable, I think he would be a much better player. And I think and Raul's injury, obviously, it was a big impact in that as well. So I think he's slowly becoming, he's getting bigger, stronger, scoring more goals. I just think he's been burnt too many times by when he's had the chance at Wolves. So, sensibly, it probably is the right time to move him on anyway.
That's what sucks, is that it's really the relationship with Fabio, because as a footballer now, like you were saying, Dave, like if we were to sign, even for the money we signed him, a guy with 13 goal involvements in Spain last year for a pretty crappy club, to be honest, who was around the bottom of the table in 25 games, we'd be like, wait, that's great. Like, he's exactly the kind of player we actually need on this squad right now. But like, just the unfortunate timing and mismanagement of him and the way he feels about the club at this point is really the only thing getting in the way. It's not like his footballing ability. I honestly believe that. I think he'll end up being good somewhere. It's a shame.
He's just tired of having dinner with Jeff at Fiume. So
yeah, I remember that picture coming out. I couldn't believe that, and it was like the day after. I was like, how is this not all over Twitter? That like there's like a young lad with curly hair that's speaking Portuguese at a restaurant, and it's taken like 12 hours to get out on Twitter. It was crazy, but yeah.
There he is, Todd DeWitt, coming through. Dear Lord, please stay, Fabio.
There are still believers out there.
Yeah, he's got to double down. So Dave, Jeff Shee was also on a podcast, The Business of Football. It was a long one. I let people like Talking Wolves sum it up for me because I couldn't stand listening to the whole thing. Did that tell you anything other than the fact that he still won't admit Fabio Silva was a mistake?
Yeah. Strangely, I had to watch that twice. I watched that twice in its entirety. I watched it. When did it release? On like a Tuesday or Wednesday? And I watched it all the evening. And then I thought, actually, I've got to do a video on this. So I watched it again and took notes. The best and worst signings thing. I think he possibly would have said Fabio if he wasn't still contracted to the club. I think Catrone is a probably fair guess, but I think if Gonzalo Guedes or Fabio moved on in the future, they'd probably be up there with one of the answers. But I don't know. I didn't think it was as bad as people were making out. Obviously, he slipped up on some things that would wind a few fans up and frustrate fans. But I think from a business point of view, I understood what he was trying to say and what he was trying to make out. But he needs to talk the talk. Talk the talk and walk the walk, basically, this year. I think, what he said was positive in some regards, and I understood what he was trying to do. But I don't know. But unfortunately, especially for Wolves fans, I think if a chairman goes on a podcast, you want them to say, yeah, we're going to spend so much money. We've got 200 million. We're going to spend it all this summer. Realistically, that's not going to happen. And secondly, if that did happen, then every football club that we approach is going to say, well, where's this 200 million? We want more money for our players. So he has to be careful with what he says. But I just think, again, it's actually quite similar to the Fabio situation. He's done too many things wrong in the past that regardless of what he does now, Jeff Shee and Fabio, it's going to be very, very hard to get the fans back on side regardless now. So the timing of the podcast is probably a little bit weird. I think it's probably weird that he's done a podcast considering he very rarely makes public statements or does things in the press of Wolves now. But I think it was. I didn't mind it too much. I actually learned and was quite interested in it, but I think it was always just going to be a bit of a recipe for disaster, to be honest.
Yeah, I was surprised there was no talk of atoms or a three-body problem, though. So, he's making some progress. The Semedo situation. Apparently, he's moved out. We don't know where he's at. It's like, where in the world is Nelson Semedo? Where is he going to go, Dave? Any idea?
I don't think it'll be a Wolves. I've held like the smallest of hopes that he will stay. And I think the longer the saga's gone on and the longer Wolves haven't signed a right back, I thought maybe he would stay. I wouldn't be surprised now in the next day or so if we see the farewell video, especially with the comments Vitor has made the last day or so. He's made it pretty much clear that I think Fabio's moved on. And interestingly, he made out that he was pretty disappointed with how Nelson Semedo had handled it as well. So I think he's gone. It's a shame. I think last year he was really good. I think the offer Wolves put on the table for him was far too kind, to be honest. But I'm shocked that he didn't sign that. But I don't know where he'll go. But I think Wolves probably want to get someone lined up ready to maybe coincide with that video. Maybe Mark Pubil, who's the one that linked at the moment. He may join. But yeah, it's a shame. I liked Nelson. I think he was a good player. I think, came in, had quite a tough job as captain, but did well. And again, part of the reason why we had a decent spell the second half of the season.
Whole Lot of Wolves summer specials are brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines. Showcasing 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle, they have the perfect pairings for all of your summer beach days and barbecues. Head to esfuerzowines.com now and use the promo code VITOR, that's VITOR, to get a 30% discount on your order. And don't miss their one-pack wines, which proudly display their support of Wolverhampton Wanderers. That's esfuerzowines.com, promo code VITOR. All right, our favorite part of the show where the listeners can ask us anything related to Wolverhampton Wanderers. No stupid questions, brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines. So let's kick this one off with a question from frequent guest Drew Breyer, who on X is at Drew Freakin. What 2 players of those that we've been linked to, if we sign them, would appease the fan base most? So, Dave, you're monitoring all the links and reportedly interested in. Who do you think would make the fans the most happy?
It's weird because there actually hasn't been that many, other than obviously John Arias, who's now signed. There hasn't been many that concrete. I think a right back would help a lot because I think that's probably one of the massive areas. So I'd say Mark Pubil, who I just mentioned. Again, although I don't think many people know huge amounts. And again, it's not really an area that we need to strengthen massively, but Richard Rios is the other one. Yeah, I think he may be going to Benfica now, but he's a very, very talented player from Palmeiras in Brazil. So he would be another one. I think that'd be like a top signing for Wolves. probably those two. If I went back a little bit more, I think like Paul said, Harvey Elliott, I think would be really good at Wolves as well. So, and I think if people, that would settle nerves quite a lot if you're signing a player that quality, homegrown as well. But if we're talking sort of recent transfers, I'd probably say Rios and Pubel, I would say.
There's only one correct answer here, guys. And Danny knows who it is.
Oh, I know who you're going to say. Yeah.
It's Yunus Musa.
Yeah, that one's gone quiet actually over the last week or so. Well, a couple of weeks actually, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would appease like our little sector of the world and the fan base here massively, for sure. Horizon Candle asks about Hadjam, the guy at Young Boys, the Algerian, French Algerian left back, who basically, if you YouTube him, is like just a clone of Eight Nori. Anything on that? Because that would be one I could see people like, again, rushing to YouTube and being like, oh yeah, I am excited about this guy.
Yeah, again, that one's been pretty quiet. I think it was just under a week ago. I think it was last Monday when the sort of main articles on that broke. Again, there were quite a few teams interested in him, but I remember part of the article was saying like financially, Wolves were probably the best place to offer him, you know, the fee that Young Boys wanted and the wage that he wanted. I think Wolves, especially for a player like Hadjam, are quite an attractive proposal because he's seen where Eight Nori's been and where he's gone to, and that, you know, coming from the Swiss League to the Premier League is quite a big jump, but also, you know, something I think a player would jump at anyway. But yeah, that's gone pretty quiet. Again, I wouldn't rule that one out though, because it was fairly decent sources that were talking about it. But I think, again, it'll probably be something that probably wait this week for, because Hugo Bueno comes back to train. I think Vitor Pereira will probably want a really good look at him before he decides to commit to anyone sort of left wing back wise, especially with Rodrigo coming back as well.
All right, while we're on the wing backs, this is a selfish question I'm sneaking in. There's a certain right back who is playing in the Champions League qualification this week, but after that is expected to leave Panathinaikos. What do you? Are the sources real on Vayanidis? And are we? Can we finally get a Greek at Compton? That would make me very happy.
He looks pretty good as well. But I don't think. There was one source saying that we'd agreed a deal with him, or at least we had an offer accepted, but it wasn't very. I don't think it was very reputable. But again, I think right back is probably more likely a position that Wolves will buy over left back. To be fair, so again, I wouldn't completely rule it out. I don't have any insight whether it's true or it's false at this point. But again, I wouldn't rule out that they're the sort of signings I think that Wolves are going to be looking at because they're from unique, more obscure leagues. The transfer value and the wages are going to be a lot lower than them signing someone from the Premier League or from one of the top 5 leagues. So I think they're the sort of outside of the box type recruitment, you know, transfers that Wolves will go for. So again, him, Mark Pubel, who obviously I know is playing in Spain right now, but second division, so you get in him for quite a favourable fee. You know, they're the type of signings Wolves will go for.
Yeah. And then while we're on the right backs, we all saw on the socials Kiana Hoover's assist in the training match. Greg Ellis asked us about him. Simply discuss. What do we think? Will he be here?
I think it'll be an interesting one with Kiana Hoover because, like I mentioned earlier on, I think because he's homegrown, it helps a lot with registration. Vitor wouldn't have had a chance to look at him. I think he's had a really productive last 12 months because he's playing in the top division in France. So this is a big chance for him. Again, it just depends whether he wants to fight for his place. One of the reasons he fell out of favour at Wolves was he was a little bit lazy, and Bruno Lage called him out for that, and I don't think Kiana liked it. I think Kiana thought that he was going to be sort of on par and getting as many opportunities as Nelson Semedo after a couple of years, which was just never going to happen anyway. So this is a big opportunity for him, but I wouldn't be against keeping him. And I think someone like Pedro Lima, I love Lima. I've literally got a shirt with his name on here, but I think he probably needs a loan out, getting him as many minutes as possible. But that opens a door for Kiana, I think.
I'm going to go and make a tremendously outlandish statement that Hoover's going to make a return this summer that rivals Oasis's.
That is bold.
Very bold.
Is that the new bromance with Kiana Hoover?
Good Lord.
Yeah, no, we're not going. We're not going that close.
Yeah, no.
Here's a fun one from Brian Donnelly of Charlotte Wolves at Brian Donnelly 8 on X. What color do you hope the away kit will be?
That's why I'm wearing white based on that. I need the return to that retro white one with like the off-white stripes. I can't remember what year it was, like late 70s.
The Manda one, was it? Yeah, Manda on it?
Earlier than that, like the bigger lines. Because if you start to, and it's just got the wolf head on it.
Yeah.
And you start to notice on some of the new pseudo leisure wear that they go in just for the wolf crest a lot more and not the hexagon. So it'd be like that purple kit from last year, but with the plain white and black. That
1982, I think it was, Paul. I've just found it. Yeah, Tatunga
Nice.
It had the sponsor on. They used to do it as a I don't know if it's still there. It's on the retro shirt section on Wolves, but it's sold out at the moment as a retro one.
Paul, you were wrong on this. It needs to be pink. It is about time we get a pink.
My girlfriend mentioned a pink Wolves kit earlier, so I don't know. I'm probably going to disappoint both of you. I think neither of them are those colours. I haven't seen them in person. I think one is going to be Brazilian themed, but not yellow. It'll be like a blue tinge. But I think the third and the away, one's a light blue, one's a dark blue, but I don't know which order it's in. Maybe
the green one will be cool.
I had that prediction a few weeks ago that the Brazil away kit, basically the yellow and like blue and green.
You know, the home kit's got like a pattern on it at the moment. There's a pattern, not the same, but a similar sort of style, like just sort of in the fabric itself, and it is really nice, to be fair. But I've seen the goalkeeper kit. I haven't seen the actual away kits.
Wow. I'm all for a Brazilian themed kit. That was going to be my answer. I saw that a while ago, and I was hoping that there was some legitimacy. So
I've not mentioned that anywhere, by the way. So that's a whole lot of Wolves exclusive. I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to say. That's great. All right, Carl in the chat here on the live stream asks James McAtee from City, could he be a solution? I know there's been talks of that, and maybe there's a little bit of a pipeline from Man City to Wolves with us dealing expensive players to them and them loaning players back to us. What do we think? Should we keep an eye on that?
It's hard because I think similar to the Harvey Elliott situation, I think he's a good player, James McAtee, but I don't know where he slots into Wolves at the moment. He may well be able to play as one of the number 10s, but I don't know. If I'm honest, I just don't think he suits how Wolves play at the moment and fits into how we play. Or if we were to sign him, I just don't get how he gets in ahead of certain players such as Gomez or Andre if he's playing as the holding role. I just basically don't think Wolves would pay the money that City want for him unless they're open to some sort of loan agreement with an option to buy at the end of it. But I think there will be clubs out there. I think Forest, I think there's teams in the Bundesliga that are open to buying him outright right now. So I don't know. I would never say never because I think Wolves have been linked with him towards the start of the summer, but I just don't think he's a player that Wolves would pursue, if I'm completely honest.
Let's move on to some kind of silly, fun ones, I guess. Everybody in the world, I feel like, saw what happened at Oasis with the Kiss Cam that ruined. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I know it was Coldplay. I got Oasis on the brain. At the Coldplay concert with the CEO and his HR director getting outed. I think he resigned yesterday, by the way.
Yes, former CEO now.
Yeah, former CEO would be more correct. But in the spirit of that, Stu from the Wolves Fancast asks, have you ever featured on Kiss Cam for any reason? Anybody? Yes, no? Well, I have. And my very brief story about this is a long time ago when I was starting my career when I had a career in media and was going down that route. I was working at a radio station, the ESPN Milwaukee affiliate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I had to work one of the minor league baseball games nearby in suburban Wisconsin outside of Milwaukee. And because I was like kind of on the air at the time, I guess I was considered in, again, suburban Wisconsin, celebrity enough to throw out the first pitch. So I threw out the first pitch.
Oh my God.
And then later,
wow.
I mean, come on. It's like, yeah.
Did you throw a strike?
I think I did. I was actually really nervous about it. I'm not a baseball player. I could throw the football well, but not a baseball.
Better or worse than Matt Doherty at Orioles?
About on par.
Okay, that's not bad. That was like an 8 out of 10. I remember.
I mean, it was within the strike zone. Let's just say it wasn't like a 50-cent first pitch. But anyway, that's besides the fact. So I'm there. So then I'm like sitting there, and then later on, one of my very best friends had colluded with the people who work for the team to get me on the kiss cam, because I was sitting with, at the time, another employee that he knew I had started, hanging out with on the side, whatever it might be. Now, this relationship within the office was a secret for a little while. It wasn't inappropriate. We were at the same level. I was not anybody's manager or anything like that. So technically, it would have been allowed. And they put us up on the kiss cam, and there was a lot of embarrassment. We did not kiss. I knew immediately that was an inside job at that point, and I got very angry at my friend. And that girl who I was up on the kiss cam with from my company is my now wife.
Wow. It's a great story.
Is very funny.
A shockingly similar story to the Coldplay one.
Yeah, exactly. So it was fun. And then the other kind of fun one. I'm sorry, as I locate it. Oh, it comes from Todd, Minnesota Wolves. He's currently driving to Iowa for a USL League 2 game. What is your favorite road trip snack? I feel like this is like a question that comes up a lot when I'm like hanging out amongst my friends. You go to a lot of away days, right, Dave? I don't know. Like when you're like on the road, like what are you stopping and getting at the gas station?
I've sort of slowed down a little bit because I've tried to like watch a little bit more, like what I eat. But obviously it's a little bit different in America. But chili heat wave Doritos are my like go-to. So I don't know if it's, because I remember when I went to New York a couple of years ago, I had some Doritos, but they're all different colors to what we have in the UK. So that chili heat wave is like a red packet. I think it's maybe the blue one where you are, or green. Maybe?
That's Cool Ranch. I think you're thinking of the purple one, which is like sweet something chili or something.
Spicy sweet chili Doritos. Yeah, those are great.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, but it's chili heat wave. But yeah, they're my like favorite. They go to, like if I have like a meal deal, like a sandwich, the crisps, and a drink in the UK, I always have the Doritos. So that's probably my go-to. To be fair, because it's just easy to pick at and food. But again, I'm more, if it was like a sweet or chocolate. Again, we have this thing called drumstick squashies in the UK. I don't know if you would have tried any of those, Josh, or not. I don't know. But,
I did not. Drumstick.
Again, there's probably an equivalent in America, but they're always like pretty cheap. Like a bag is for like £1. And again, they're just so easy to pick at. But it's one of those sweets that you normally finish the bag rather than, saving some. It's just a sweet that you always finish. But I'd probably say Doritos or those, to be honest.
It's an institution in Texas, but the chain of bookies on the highway, and it's got to be beaver nuggets. There's no other answer.
I cannot imagine what a UKer would think about Buc-ee's the first time they saw Buc-ee's.
Well, now you got to give them some context. Yeah.
I mean, even for Alex and I, like,
I mean,
Buc-ee's
I was shocked the first time I went to a Buc-ee's.
It's like, what? Think of a gas station, Dave, with like 60 pumps, and you go inside, and they're making brisket sandwiches, donuts, homemade fudge. There's every kind of drink. They're even selling merchandise for like the beach and shirts, and
it's sort of like a service station, but like
on crack,
but Americanized. Yeah.
Because
we always got to go big. My go-to on the 12-hour drive to Alabama from Houston is always Gold Bears, Gold Gummy Bears. Those are the best.
We usually go for Chex Mix. If we've got time, then we will make our own, because we're pretty critical of the regular combination of things in the mix. You can get rid of those bagel chips. Those bagel chips serve zero purpose. What are they? They're just filler. So
I like the bagel chips part.
You're a monster. That's all I have to say.
Sorry.
Yeah. I find that I enjoy things that I feel like get your hands dirty, which sucks for a road trip. But I would love it to be like similar to Doritos, but like the white cheddar popcorn, the smart food white cheddar popcorn. I love buying a bag of that and just housing the whole thing from the gas station. But then, like, if you're driving, the steering wheel is just full of like that dusty fake cheddar or whatever chemical cheese they put on it, which is tough. So sometimes you got to factor in the cleanliness when you're in.
Josh, I know you probably mentioned it on a podcast after you came back from the UK, but what were the go-to sort of UK snacks or food places that you tried?
Oh man, Stu
So did
got
you have Greg's or not? Did you try
Stu
Greg's?
got me this like square. It was like square little candies. Golly, I can't remember what they are now. Those were pretty good. I can tell you it was not the Bovril.
Oh yeah, Bovril. See, I like Bovril. I do.
Oh,
Yeah, I can understand why not there. It's just like drinking gravy. You know, that's all it is really.
yeah,
I like
is.
Bovril. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that. No, there was. I tell you what, though, the beer out there was stupendous.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
especially once he found out that people can put in beer orders at Weatherspoons from across the ocean.
Yeah.
I had a stack of like.
Where I met you, the Moon and the Wood, like if you order on the app, you'll get it quicker than waiting at the bar.
Oh yeah,
busy at the bar. They always prioritize the app orders as well, so you just get it quicker. No, it's good to be fair. It's just a shame we didn't see Vitor that night though. So,
yeah. Well, you can't get everything. And then I have a question for you. What was everybody's honest reaction to me rolling up in the cowboy hat?
I remember because obviously I'd seen the pictures of you on socials, and then I remember because I was stood at the table and I looked over, I was like, oh god, I said he's there in his cowboy hat. I said I've seen him, I've got him on Twitter. And then the next thing, about 5 minutes later, I turned around and you were just stood there. I was like, oh, and you're like, oh, hi Dave, I'm Josh. I was like, oh right. And then when I keep looking at the photo when you asked me to wear the hat or asked if I wanted to wear it, and I'm bright red. I remember I was getting so embarrassed because I was with my friends and they're all recording it. They found it hilarious, but I gotta say I did feel very cool wearing that hat. Like, you know, yeah. But I think it'll get reactions. I think English people would love it. To be fair, so yeah.
I heard a lot of positive stuff to my face. I just didn't know if
it's probably
behind the scenes like what a American douche.
Yeah. That's cool. For
the U.S. Mexico game. I bought an American flag cowboy hat. I said, "Well, if this is gonna be my thing, I gotta go full in."
That'll do it for No Stupid Questions. Thanks to our friends at Esfuerzo Wines, esfuerzowines.com. Promo code Vitor, 30% off at checkout.
Well, Dave, how can everybody find you on Twitter and everywhere with Talking Wolves?
So yeah, if you're obviously if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it on the screen. But if you're listening, it's obviously at Talking Wolves pretty much everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Or if you want to follow me on my personal one, it's just Dave Azzopardi, Dave, and then AZZOPARDI. And thank you for having me, lads. I've really enjoyed it.
It's our pleasure.
Thanks, Dave. Our summer specials will conclude the first week of August. It's another special guest interview, and then it'll be on to the new season proper. So thanks again to our summer special sponsors, Esfuerzo Wines. And although it's not a regular episode, let me leave with a special Up the Mighty Wolves. It's dedicated to Robbie Meakin, Little Dan from the Fancast, and any of you going through your own challenge, big or small, that life throws at you. Remember, the strength of the wolf is in the pack.